Was a pretty standard grade C, grade D student, right, at school. I never got on with school. Like maths literally made me feel kind of like dyslexic.
What does that mean? He's like, I don't understand this. I think this is wrong.
Mm.
I'm like, did you ask why? He's like, no.
Mm.
I was shy to ask why.
Yeah, I started like messing around in business when I was like 15, 16, 17.
And it's very dangerous
Yeah,
to instill beliefs in kids. And this age,
yeah.
when they're open, and somebody tells them that you believe that way, they just take it for granted.
My son, for example, was the first one to go into school, and he was a super curious kid. He loved like learning everything. You talk to him about any subject, he was like fired up.
And it's hard because teacher is a very important job.
Mm.
And finding a good teacher is almost impossible.
Long story short, you can see him falling out of love with learning,
Yes.
right? Because that's how he thinks it happens. You sit in a class, you receive information from a teacher, and that's how you learn.
You're building a school of future.
Mm-hmm.
You call it Future Human.
Yeah.
Check it out. Why? What's wrong with schooling?
What's wrong with schooling? I suppose you have to kind of rewind a little bit and think about why I think this. And I suppose my own personal experience was I was a pretty standard grade C, grade D student, right, at school. So I reckon I could have left school when I was probably 14 or 15, and I kind of hung on and did some extra exams and stuff like that. And I never got on with school. Like maths literally made me feel kind of like dyslexic. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
numbers on a page, and I just couldn't understand the context. I couldn't understand why I was being told these things. And it wasn't until I started my first business, so I started like messing around in business when I was like 15, 16, 17. And then start my first business, and you do a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and you go, oh wow, this is telling me all the mistakes I made in the past. And if I use a spreadsheet in the right way, I can predict it in the future, what my business might do in the future. So as soon as you had context about why I was learning, then it made a huge difference. And so anyway, fast forward to my own experience, I guess, and my own sort of journey and having kids. And then, that's like 15, 20 years later or whatever, when you have kids.
Yeah.
And you got all this life experience, and you put your kids into the education system that you went into, that I went into. And my son, for example, was the first one to go into school, and he was like super curious kid. He loved like learning everything. You talk to him about any subject, he was like fired up.
I have one of those at home.
Yeah, exactly, right. And that's magical at that sort of age, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And he goes into school, and he loves it to start with. And then as the class dynamic carries on, class full of other 30 other kids, he starts shrinking, like physically,
Okay.
like I see something physical start happening to him.
Yes.
Long story short, you can see him falling out of love with learning,
Yes.
right? Because that's how he thinks it happens. You sit in a class, you receive information from a teacher, and that's how you learn. Not like learning how he did, which is asking questions
Yes.
and being curious. So that was one thing. And then alongside my other business, which was in manufacturing and kind of like on-demand printing using technology, our kids used to run around our factory. And it was we were one of the first companies to use on-demand printing, like digital printing.
Yes.
And it always struck me that it was the best leverage position for anyone creative to create a business. So you print a T-shirt, you print any sort of merchandise, have an idea in the morning, and turn it into something in the afternoon. And so I was sitting with my kid. He came in, draw a picture, go and give it to my designer. They digitize it. He goes through to the factory,
Beautiful.
sees it like printed and coming off. He's like, wow, like this idea I had is now a tangible thing.
Yes.
So always being like passionate about education and thinking about like looking at it differently, we created an education program where we kind of took that as the end point and then captured kids' passions at the start, gave them sort of a level of understanding of themselves. We actually used a business profiling tool like test. So everyone does like tests, business profiling, whether it might be DISC or Myers-Briggs. But it's like a slightly dumbed down version for kids. and we'd take them through that process. So they had this new awareness. They had this label. Oh, this is why I'm this. This is my genius. This is like what lights me up. This is what makes me an individual, and you're different, and that's okay. So there's an amazing, powerful process we took them through on that, and this is taking it into schools, right? And then we aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, which are just a bunch of problems in the world. I'm not sure I fully agree with them now, but anyway, that was the process we used back then. So it was poverty, it's plastic pollution, it's solving big problems, and empowering these kids to the process of knowing themselves better, knowing how to work together, how to imagineer like what this future might look like if they were going to be the ones to solve the problem. And we took it into schools, and the biggest barrier during that process were the teachers who said, you're never going to get these kids to do this process, to walk through this process, because at the end, they had to pitch their ideas. They had to stand up in front of the school and communicate why they were passionate about this stuff.
Why not?
And there was a kind of, second?
Why not?
Exactly. So, but the teachers are just in this box. So it was really cool for me to sort of see, actually, the biggest problem in the education system is the teachers themselves and the system itself, right? Because it's just been like that for so long. Anyway, so we were getting amazing results with this program in education. We won like a lot of the funding to deliver the program in parts of England and the UK. And so I always carried that with me in terms of if I was going to do something again, it has to have that entrepreneurial element. It has to have that passion. How do you capture kids' passion? And it has to capture the purposeful element, like, you know, and a creative element as well, right? So, and then for reasons we might come on to, I completely shut down all those businesses and we left the UK during the pandemic, and we just went traveling as a family, and we dropped our kids into all different kinds of schools and projects and volunteering and different types of hubs, we call them, world schooling, you call it. So using the world as a kind of a school. Our kids were like, I think 9 and 7 then when we went. And so trying all these different schools, you kind of look at it and go, you kind of see what works and what doesn't. You know, everyone's got different ways of thinking how they should educate their kids. You have different dynamics at play. But it kind of crystallized this idea of like traditional schooling definitely is not working for as far as I can see. And there's an alternative path here, but there's so many different types of education. There's some core things there that are really important for kids to know in terms of the world they're coming into. So when you come to looking towards the future now in an AI, you know, the AI tsunami that's coming towards us all in terms of what's happening with the job market and the future of work and what it means to be human, like this traditional education system is just not working. So making a decision, we made the decision to completely go a different way. But why did I create a school? Because I'm carrying all this history around with me, all this kind of like acquired experience and knowledge, and building every idea I have, I kind of create a pitch deck. So in my mind, I'm crystallizing what I think is important. I'm really understanding why it's important, what it does, how it's going to be delivered, and all those elements you have as an entrepreneur making a pitch. So I had this vision, and we landed in Bali in 2023. And over time, we're trying different schools here, but the time presented itself as the right time, where there was a bunch of other parents that felt the same, talking to them. And when we decided to go do something, like, oh, here's my concept.
Yes.
And that's how we started.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
There's so many questions. I have a 6-year-old who is very passionate about learning right now. So I feel exactly the way you feel. And my biggest fear is that he will unlearn this desire to learn new things, if it makes sense. So you said that your kids started shrinking in the school. What do you think was the main reasons? Why was that? Why did he fell out of love with learning?
I think it's two things. It's the environment, first and foremost. You've got an industrial age system where kids sit in a desk and they receive information. They learn how to kind of basically conform to standards and not be creative. That's one thing. That's the general sort of standard. The other thing is, I think NASA did a study. I'm going to try and remember the right percentages here, but it's something like by their, because that NASA, for example, is looking at in an emergency, in an Apollo 13 like scenario, how innovative and can an astronaut be in terms of fixing a massive problem in space where there's no help, right?
Yes.
You need to be pretty creative in that space. So they were looking for top innovators, and they tested humans and they tested kids. And at age, I think, 5, in terms of creative genius and skill set, in terms of the capabilities, at age 5, 98% of kids were in like creative genius level.
Oh, wow.
You get to like age, I think, 10, and it drops to 30%.
Oh, no.
And you get to adults, and it drops to 2%. So if we're trying to be problem solvers in the world, then creativity, enhancing that creativity and capturing it is super important. So I think the kids don't get a chance to often be creative. And we can talk about what being creative means, but ultimately it's being curious and like being able to follow that curiosity into being creative and
In
solving
your
a
own way.
problem. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because the other thing is, sometimes they allow you to be creative, but they choose the way how you need to be creative.
Yeah.
A lot of lectures are, they're not even, like they only appeal to audio. Some people understand when, some people perceive information better when somebody speaks.
Yeah.
I'm like that. For me, it's easier.
Mm.
Other people are visual. Some people need to write things down.
Yeah.
But you are taught to do it in one way that fits this teacher better,
Yeah.
or that fits a system better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm afraid of it. I hated school. For all my school years, I was able to cheat my way out with a good grades, but that's how I was creative.
Yeah.
My creativity was figuring out the deals, how I
Yeah.
can just go through. And I don't think it's the best, because looking back, there's so much missed opportunities to learn amazing things that I need to learn now that I could have learned before. And it's like stacking the learning. So if you know what you know more, then you can stack the learnings way faster. Now it takes me so much more effort to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm really scared that this will happen to my kids too.
It's crazy. I think what we've realized running the school is that during the process of kind of thinking about all these things that are really important and listening to what kids want as well, is learning how to learn is actually a skill.
Yes.
You just said it, right? That in itself is kind of being like, I don't know what the word is, short-circuited right now because of AI. So people are deferring the learning process, which is the work of understanding things and sticking it into ChatGPT. In schools and in colleges and universities now, the students are getting a ChatGPT, they're getting good at writing prompts to have something more natural sounding, to create an essay that they've been told to write, and then dumbing it down to their level so they have something to put in.
Yes.
And then the university or the teachers are then marking it via ChatGPT as well. So what a colossal waste of time. And it completely takes, if I was paying for that education, whether through taxation or actually like fees as a parent, knowing that that's happening, I'd be like, I just can't compute that.
Yes.
So I think there's so many different ways to do it, but I think ultimately kids at that age need to learn by playing.
Yes.
You do, right? And trying to force them, and reading. I'd say reading is an important one because it opens up so many doors, and that is one of the best ways to learn, right? Is to read. But outside of that, it really is 100% around allowing creativity and curiosity to go, and then being able to communicate why you think that's important, right? Just as we do as adults, as entrepreneurs, right? I think the entrepreneurial mindset is a key thing that so many adults need, and also kids as well.
I notice that I teach my kids to ask why as many times as possible if they to understand, to dig deeper. And my son came from school and he was saying something like, we believe that secrets are not true. Right. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, I don't understand this. I think this is wrong. I'm like, did you ask why? He's like, no, I was shy to ask why.
Yeah.
And this is when I felt that something is going on.
Mm.
Because, first of all, I really don't think that the school should tell you what to believe in.
Yeah.
It's that I don't think that anybody's job, even a parent's job, is not really teaching kids what to believe. Because beliefs come from your experience, you experience things, or maybe you read something and then you have certain beliefs. And it's very dangerous
Yeah.
to instill beliefs in kids. And this age,
Yeah.
when they're open, and somebody tells them that you believe that way, they just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And we had to have really deep discussion. I'm like, okay, let's take some examples of that. I'm happy you brought it to me, so at least let's together discuss it. And then we discussed it, and then we both realized that maybe there is some sense in what the idea is, but this belief cannot be applied because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Then I contacted the teacher, and the answer I was given also didn't make any sense again. And I was like, yeah, it's hard. And it's hard because teacher is a very important job. And finding a good teacher is almost impossible. They are undervalued, they're underpaid, but this is who creates the next generation of people. And they need to be very educated, no matter if it's, especially if you're dealing with young kids. When I was 6, one of my teachers liked communism a lot. And she would talk about Joseph Stalin, how amazing he is for 6 years. And none of the parents would tell them, shut up.
Yeah.
And I still, even though I understand logically that this is not true, I still have admiration for a person just because I want to steal in that. So I think that's the hardest part. I agree with you that teachers are the most important role, but I think teachers need to be so good that it's almost impossible to find. And somebody so good to devote his life to teaching is like being a missionary.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the key components we talk about at our school, which is we don't say we've got teachers, we say we have mentors.
Yeah.
It completely changes just the framework in way we think about it, and it just completely gets away from that idea of it being a teacher, kid, and a bunch of kids together. It's like you need that one-to-one understanding, which is hard, right?
Yes.
We're focusing on 11 plus kids. That's ours. Now, in Bali, there's 1,000,001 different options for nature-based or play-based learning for kids, from academic as well, up until age 11. You get to age 11, the options narrow really quickly, right? And a lot of people will fall back into academic pathways at that age because they start to panic and they think, oh, my kids have a great time up until age 10. Oh shit, now I need grades to sort of monitor how they're actually going, right? But back to the mentorship thing, when you talk about teachers, like really, I remember one teacher at school, high school in particular, and I'll never forget him because he was the best teacher I ever had. But his ability to convey the information to what felt like to me directly was like the thing that like it captured me, and it was the one lesson, the one subject that I carried on all the way that I was trying to do education, right? Trying to be in school, because he already understood it, and I had massive respect for him. Right, he could make me feel this small, in a good way when I was not fulfilling my own capabilities, but it made in such a way that it made me want to excel with him, So that approach with an individual kid is so important. Most schools, I've been told they have to teach in a certain way.
Yes.
The teachers themselves are being assessed, and the SATs and stuff. Certainly in the UK, my understanding is it's more about more about assessing the school and the parent and the teachers than it is the kids.
Really?
Right? But the kids have to be passing this sort of level. So the school's getting assessed, the school's getting graded, and then all the parents want to send their kids to the best school, right?
Where they assess teachers the best way.
Right, exactly. But that teacher then is under this huge amount of pressure themselves. How are they ever going to be able to have that experience that I had, and maybe you've had, with a teacher that feels more like a mentor? They're never going to have that experience because they ain't got time. And they're under so much pressure.